What's up, Shelton? How we doing? Is that all you have? Really? How we doing, Shelton? That's my goal. All right, so it's exciting to be here. My name is Simon Calcavecchia, and don't pay attention to this flimsy microphone on my face, but please listen to my story. I am a motivational speaker, a children's book author, and a disability awareness advocate. And I love sharing my story to inspire people, to get them to think with a growth mindset. And I know that a lot of the kids that are here tonight that are receiving awards are doing just that. And I love that. And I really want to inspire people even more. And I want the kids that are here to know that you are doing amazing things. And just to be here tonight, to be able to speak in your honor is a privilege. So now I want to tell you a little bit about my own personal story. I like to start with what you're all curious about, in why am I using this wheelchair. We need to switch over to the laptop, if we could please. My journey with using the wheelchair began in high school after I really started playing football. And I loved football in high school, but there was one problem. I was 5'7", 230 pounds, and built like a refrigerator. And all I ever wanted to do was run the ball and score touchdowns. But because of my height and my size, there wasn't a coach around that would let me do the things that I was dreaming about. And that made it hard for me to stay passionate about the game of football. Now, when I finished my junior football season, I had a friend come up to me and he said, "Simon, have you ever thought about playing a game called rugby?" And I said, "Rugby? What's that?" And my friend told me that rugby is a sport where anyone can run the ball and score touchdowns. So I said, "When can I sign up?" And within 2 weeks, we started the first rugby team in Olympia, Washington, and we were called the Bud Bay Barbarians. And we actually had some Shelton players out there with us too. And we ended up playing the first year. First year went pretty well, but by our second year, we did so well that we won the state tournament and were invited to the national tournament in Columbus, Ohio, where we ended up placing 5th in the nation. It was an incredible feat and something that we're all very proud of till this day. When we finished that season, I didn't know what to do with myself. I wasn't quite ready for college yet. I wasn't the best kid in school. And I didn't believe in myself yet. And my coach knew that too. He knew that I believed in rugby and that I was passionate about that. And he said, "Simon," in an Australian accent, "how would you like to go to Sydney, Australia to continue pursuing your dreams of playing rugby?" And at 19 years old, I couldn't be more excited. And I said yes as fast as I said yes to rugby in the first place. And after 6 months of saving up enough money, I took the trip of my life down under. When I went there, I was going there to prove that an American could play an Australian sport. And I was getting in the gym, I was working out, I was getting on the beach and doing conditioning, as well as putting 100% of my effort onto the practice field. Now, when I was doing that, the coaches were noticing my efforts, and they had moved me up to a pretty high level of rugby. It was more of the collegiate level. And when I was there, I had a friend who was trying to help me get even better. And he was trying to help me get better in the part of the game called the scrum. Now, the scrum is kind of like in football where they hike the ball and everybody smashes together. And I was in the position of the red jersey, number 17. That's called a tight head prop. Now, when I was there, I had a goal, and that was to push my opponents around in the scrum. And my friend was the #1 player on my team in my position, and he wanted to help me get even better. And he said, "Simon, next time you go into a scrum," and he gave me an advanced technique, he said, "get your head a little bit over to the side, and when you do that, you can get an advantage on your opponent." And that actually ended up leading me into breaking my neck in the very next game. Now, I want to show you why it was so important for me to have my head in the right spot. This is a scrum right here, and when my head was just a little bit off, you can see why it was easy for me to break my neck. These scrums are like car wrecks. Every time they smash together, they are hitting with thousands of pounds of pressure. And when my head was just a little bit off, I ended up breaking my neck and damaging my spinal cord at the C5-6 vertebrae. Now, where I broke my neck, if you look on the right, is C1 through C6, I think, and I broke it at C5-6. When I did that, I was instantly paralyzed on the field. I remember waking up to doctors surrounding me, and I didn't know what had happened yet. My arms were laying on my chest, and I really had no clue that I was paralyzed until the doctor said, "Can you move your arms?" And you would think they would ask about my legs first, but it was my arms that were laying heavy on my chest, and I tried to move it, and nothing happened. And that's when I realized something very scary and traumatic had happened to my life. And when that happened, I became paralyzed from the chest down. So this line right here is anything below that line, I have no feeling or control over my body, which makes it very challenging to do things. My hands are also paralyzed, my fingers are paralyzed. I can move my wrist up like this, but not the opposite way. And if I want to raise my arm in this position, I'm unable to do that because my triceps are paralyzed, the muscle you use for pushing. And when that occurred, I had a life-changing event happen. And I had to deal with it. I had to persevere. I had to be strong when I was at my most vulnerable state. And thankfully, I had amazing people like my mom, who's here tonight. Big shout out to Mama Julie. She is an amazing woman who's been there for me from the start. And when I became injured, I needed a lot of help. I need help getting dressed in the morning. I need help getting up. Yes, she did make me look this fly. What's up, Mom? All right. And I need help with cooking and bathing and all kinds of things. And I really couldn't do all that without the support of others. And thankfully, I am able to continue living my life. But it really comes down to me having the right attitude and the right mindset. Now, when I came home from the hospitals, I had this whole new life to live with quadriplegia. And I decided the best thing that I could start doing was start going to college. So I went to the local community college in Olympia, then transferred over to the Evergreen State College, where I graduated with a Bachelor of Arts. Yes, education is important. And I did learn a lot from being and going to college. And it's where I really started to believe in myself. It allowed me to try a lot of different things. And it also led to me spending time with children and volunteering in classrooms. And that was a game changer. When I started volunteering with kids, it filled my life up with passion. And it drove my creativity to new levels. And I started, after volunteering with kids, I started my own YouTube channel where I share my adventures with people all over the world about how I refuse to let my disability stop me from chasing my dreams. When I started it, I would go on adventures like driving a monster truck, or flying a plane over Seattle, or getting in a race car and going 200 miles an hour around a racetrack here in Shelton. And one of my favorites, I'm losing my mic, was when I got my ear played with by Don over here. But it is on camera. And the other one was, one of my favorites was when I created my very first glitter beard. And I love sharing my videos because it inspired people all over the world. And I really enjoyed that. And I eventually needed a little bit more inspiration. And I came across another guy who had quadriplegia. His name is Genesis Del Boss. and he has biceps as big as most of your heads. And this guy truly inspired me to do something new and get in the gym. Because when I first became injured, I had to just accept that I was no longer an athlete. I had to accept that I could no longer be physically fit and just move past that because I needed to stay positive so that I could do or focus on the things that I can do. But I found out later that it was just one big excuse. And I want to show you why. And if I could get a play on this. Oh, we played all right. All right, so here's Genesis Del Bosch. He is, move the mic. So Genesis Del Bosch is a quadriplegic bodybuilder. This guy is curling 50 pounds in this video, and he helped start the world's first quadriplegic bodybuilding competition so he can compete with other people on a fair level. But look at those biceps. Nobody out there can compete with this guy. And he inspired me to get in the gym and make my best YouTube video yet. And after 2 years of documenting my progress, I released a video that helped me get over 100,000 views on my YouTube channel because people were so inspired by what I was doing. And it felt incredible. And that wasn't even the coolest part. The coolest part is that it allowed me to get back to something that I truly love, and I want to share all that with you right now.
When I was 17 years old, I started playing a game that I had passion for. The game was called rugby, and I loved everything about it. I loved it so much that I was willing to follow my passion to Sydney, Australia. While I was there, I ended up breaking my neck at the C5-6 level, which rendered me with quadriplegia for the rest of my life. Over the course of the years, I've been on a mission to prove that life doesn't end with quadriplegia. I started filming a YouTube channel in which I do various different things that at one point or time I never thought was possible. I want to inspire people to believe in themselves and to know that no matter what your situation, you can find passion in your life and chase your dreams. I am truly thankful and feel blessed for the way my life has turned out, even though I have been through very difficult and challenging times. I feel as though this has been an opportunity for me to grow in ways that I never imagined, and to believe in what I'm capable of, and believe in accomplishing things that I never thought were possible. Refusing to give up on my life, I slowly began to discover more and more things. One of those things that have been tremendously impactful on my life is when I discovered that I could get back to the game that I love by playing wheelchair rugby. It was a life-changing moment for me when I was able to get back out on the court and play the game, maybe in a little bit different way, but able to play the game that I once loved so much. And it's brought so much passion to my life again and opened up doors that once again I never realized were possible.
So with all that good stuff going on in my life, I was really inspired. And I had spent 10 years volunteering with kids, and not once in that time did I ever find a book in the classroom that had a character using a wheelchair. And I really want to change that. And that's why I'm working so hard to get my books out there and to share my message. And my first story is about when I got stuck in the mud in my wheelchair and needed help to get out. And I really love having this book in my life, and it's really created something bigger than myself. And it's allowed me to have a positive impact on students of all ages, and to be able to share my stories where there really aren't a whole lot of stories shared in the children's book genre. And I love being able to change that. And this is my first book, but I really want to talk about my second book. And this book is really important to me. This book is called Differently Awesome. And I love this book because in my life, there are times where people treat me differently or when they don't include me just because I have a disability and use a wheelchair. And I have to be honest, those are the times where I feel like I have the biggest disability. They're also the times where it hurts the most. And when I'm treated differently, it doesn't feel good. And I thought, wow, if I'm dealing with this as an adult, what are kids going through? I bet they're dealing with it 10 times over. And I want to change that. I want to get a positive message out there for kids and for adults and anybody reading these books to really think about their actions and treating people differently or not including them. And that's why I created these books. And I love going to schools, and that's what I do. I go to schools, to elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools, and I share this story to try and make a difference. And what I love about the students tonight that are being awarded these awards is that they are making a difference. They are going out there and they are inspiring people to make change happen, to make the world a better place. And to be able to be a part of this tonight, to be able to share that message and to honor these kids is incredible. And I know that if you're in here and you won one of these awards tonight and you've been honored for what you do, whether it's in the school or on the playground, just being a good person and inspiring others, we can all make a difference. And I love the quote by Gandhi that says, "Be the change that you want to see in the world." And you can't see it on here, but you know what the words are. And I love that quote because really, we can all make a difference. We can all work harder to treat people with kindness. And you can switch over the camera if you want. To treat people with kindness, to make an effort to include, and to not judge people. It's really important because sometimes people that have invisible disabilities, whatever it is, they get treated differently, or they're not included. And so it's so important that we all work together to make a difference. Just like the kids that are winning these awards tonight and winning the awards at life. So thank you so much for having me. Thanks for letting me share my story with you. And let's get a big round of applause for everybody here tonight.